It's time for Class Racing Today, the podcast for the NHRA class racing fan. Welcome back to Class Racing Today, classracingtoday.com. This episode's sponsored by Midwest Class Racers. They just had their 6th annual Badger Classic in Rock Falls. Your host, Brian, was there. Killing it. We'll talk about that in a minute. Don't go away. Share this out to your friends. We're live on Facebook right now. We are on the Instagram at Class Racing Today. ClassRacingToday@gmail.com. If you would like to say hello, or if you want a shirt or sticker, send us a message. We'll get that out to you. Brian, what is up? You're here. Back in studio after a crazy drive about the country. How are you?
It's good to be back. Man, it was just a fun weekend. It was fun to get back in the car and make some passes and see my racing family, who I feel like it's been forever.
Now, I talked to you, and you were down south on Thursday night. You arrived home Friday morning in the wee hours, and then left the next morning to go race. What was that transition? You said you had to go pick your car up. Was it ready to go when you got it?
Yeah, it was good enough. You know me, I hate to be too prepared. So,
so what I want to know, though, were you creating the atmosphere around the back of your car like you did in St. Louis?
No, we temporarily have that solutioned. So yeah, we made progress, we'll just say it that way. But yeah, I had to hook onto my trailer. I got home at 2:30 Friday morning, hooked onto my trailer, had to drive an hour, hook onto my trailer about, I don't know, I think it was 8:30. I hooked onto that, threw the car in, and headed to Rock Falls to go testing.
Nice.
So, but man, I tell you what, they've changed that track a lot. Like, I sure wish Bobby would have been there, because they've made a lot of improvements, and it was really a cool atmosphere to see. I think there was about 117 stockers there. Plus they had nostalgia super stockers, and there were some index cars that showed up. There was a lot of cars. I think they said it's one of the biggest turnouts they've had.
That's cool. Bobby claims to be busy and prepping for some things. You're getting married soon. Yeah? Awesome. Not really. Nice. Right.
You know, if I had $1 for every time I heard, "Where's Bobby? Where's Bobby? Where's Fazio? Why is he not here doing interviews?" Mm-hmm. It just made me think, like, I'm second fiddled again. You know,
Well, everyone just assumed that you'd be just on the track, just driving up and down that thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You would hope, but yeah, it didn't quite go that way. Well, well, Bobby, you would have been over-prepared, so you would have analyzed the cars that were there, and, you know, me and Hot Mess Racing, we just kind of show up and chalk our letter on the window and fill out the time card. And I wasn't quite anticipating, I think, what was there, like 8 A stock automatic cars, and there's probably 10 B stock cars, and yeah, I qualified and got lucky and got a heads up against the 2015 Challenger, old Dino, first round. He was running 1014s, making it look easy. I was 1040s. So yeah, the end result wasn't that good, but I actually did, you've been proud of me. I did run a little less air in my tires, and I did actually do a few things to try to make my car work better. Made a few suspension changes, so I was hoping to make some progress that way. Computer locked up, of course, you know, software update, all that stuff, so I couldn't really change anything tune-wise, so I was pretty much stuck there. Took my air cleaner off, got ready for my heads up, and yeah, I was 16 on the tree, he was 250, and I still lost by 500.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would have been, I would have told you to go get a sandwich. I got this. Craig, can they hear me? I'm getting a lot of Facebook messages saying that they can't hear me.
Well, it looks like it, but is it there now?
Let me see. Let me text somebody back.
Hey, there we go. It was the switch that's on the fourth layer.
The switch has been
That's it.
flicked. All right, they're saying yes, they can hear me. So now we have to rewind 8 minutes. Let's do it real quick, okay? Brian said you're getting married in 4 days. I said yes. He used to say 400 days to your wedding. Now it says 4 days to your wedding. I got to prepare now. Then we went into Brian's heads up run at Rock Falls Raceway, where Brian, you heard his whole spiel. And then I said, you know what? You should have just went for a sandwich. I would have taken care of the car for you. I would have taken oil out of that thing. I would have iced it down. I probably would have done a whole lot of things and not told him. And he might have won. And then I think you heard how Brian was covered by a half a second, and he only lost by 0.04. All right, now we can resume.
You know, that was a dynamite recap.
How was that
Good
summary?
work.
Was that good?
Yeah.
Now we know why you do flash news.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Bobby, break that down. Is that a new thing you're going to start running?
Yes.
Awesome.
You like that? I want to be able to speak as fast as those little the things at the end of
The
a commercial.
disclaimer, yeah.
The disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
Take this medicine.
It will kill you. It's fine.
Yeah.
If you say it fast enough,
May
no
kill
one
you. There's
hears
no
it.
proof that it works.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the cool part was I did realize there's always a chance, even if you are the underdog. So it did give me a little renewed hope. And I also realized there's a reason why there's about 4 other cars that were running GT or super stock classes. I've never seen them run before because we're a little more prepared than I am. So when in doubt, dodge a heads up, right?
Definitely. I've been doing it for years.
I just got comfortable last year. I always hit the right spot of the ladder, and it just wasn't a big deal. And
You don't even look at the ladder. You've just been just like, let's see where I end up. Oh, I just happened to be in the right spot, right in the middle of the pack.
that first round heads up
second
is
round.
just really demeaning. It was kind of a soul crusher, but it's all right. It motivated me. I got in the index race too. That was pretty fun. I was actually hoping to be in 3 classes, so I was second alternate in the race of champions. So not that I was hoping for someone to break, but I was hoping for 2 people not to show up. So I'd be an alternate in the race of champions, run the stock super stock race, and run the index race. And instead, we did a lot of spectating.
Before it rained out.
Yeah, but no, it was awesome. There's a lot of cars there, and I think there was. So I had a first round heads up. I think Randy Mans had a heads up with Brian Korsch. I was thinking there was 2 other ones too, but I was in my own zone, so I didn't pay that much attention. That's why we need you there next time, Bobby. Just skip the wedding. We're going racing
Next year. Don't worry.
He can skip the wedding next year. It'd be great.
Yep.
Anniversary.
Anniversary. I'll skip the anniversary. Shh. Still here. All right. Let's get into. Now, we covered the results from D1 and D5 on the Flash News last night, so if anybody wants to hear that, go ahead and check that video out. It's on Facebook and YouTube. There is one thing I wanted to mention. There was a heads up at the D1 race that I forgot about in Superstock. Superstock D Automatic, I believe, or C Automatic. Larry Jewell versus John Pelican. Larry Jewell's got a 67 Corvette. John Pelican's got a 69, 70 Chevelle, something like that. And Larry Jewell had John covered pretty good by about 0.4, I believe. And from what they say, Larry Jewell did like a John Force burnout off the starting line, giving Pelican the victory. They said Pelican actually spun a little bit too, but Pelican got the win. So that's why we don't race them on paper, like they say. Got to get out there, give it your best shot. I did see a lot of cars spinning at Lebanon Valley when I watched on NHRA TV. So I don't know. I do not want to complain about racetracks. I want them all to stay in business. I'm not going to say a word about it, but it's just unfortunate when you get there and you just can't get down the track. So hopefully that gets fixed for next year. All right, let's get into our guest today. Our guest today has been involved in NHRA drag racing since 1963. He was an original rules writer for the GT Superstock classes when they came into existence in the early 1980s. He sells race car and trailer insurance for anybody that's interested in covering your race operation, which, every time you get on social media and you see an unfortunate accident, it makes you think twice about, hey, maybe I need to be covered. So this is the man you want to speak to. This is Mr. Don Kennedy. Don, how are you doing?
Okay, just living the dream, having a good time. That's what happens when you get up in age.
Now, Don parades a 2005 Pontiac Sunfire
Yeah.
in GT in Superstock GTE automatic. But Don, you don't go the traditional route of putting a 350 Chevy in there or a 305 Chevy. You stick to your guns here with the Pontiacs, man. You're all about that Pontiac poncho power, right? You put a 428 Pontiac motor in there.
Yeah, whenever I wrote the rules for GT in the early 80s, I raced at Denver a lot. And it kind of helped. I had a Pontiac Olds Datsun dealership. And I figured that the torque that a Super Duty motor made wasn't affected by altitude as much as it would be like a small block Chevy or something like that. So I bought the car from Bob Michaels, and it had a 455 Super Duty in it, and that's what I ran because it seemed like it worked really well at high altitude, and weather didn't affect it too much because of the torque. And with that Super Duty motor, it made so much torque that everybody'd say, hey, you make so much torque, you can pull trees out of the ground. I said, well, that's what I do when I'm not at a racetrack. I take the race car, pull trees out of the ground with all the torque. But yeah, I've been racing a Pontiac forever.
Now, who builds your Pontiac motor? Actually, let's start with what is that 428? What year Pontiac would that be out of?
1968, the big Pontiac. And it's a pretty good rated combination. It runs okay. Rick Waters built my motor, and then I've had some other people freshen it up. Rick Waters now is a builder for Chris McGahey in Texas, and I had Bischoff, BES Tony Bischoff, freshen up the motor, and it seems to be working pretty well. So I like the GT classes. A long time ago, I had my dealership in New Mexico, and I realized that I wasn't selling old cars. I was selling the new cars. So I talked to a couple of people, Paul Rossi out in California, Joe Scott, Dave Danish at NHRA, about us putting old motors in new cars. And so I had a notebook that was just full of my thoughts, and gave it to Daryl Zimmerman. Zim was a division director. He passed away. He was a nice guy. And gave the book to Dave Danish, talked to Paul Rossi, Joe Scott, and I think I might have talked to F.J. Smith. I'm not certain, but I talked to a lot of people about let's get the new cars with a new motor combination. So I gave that to Dave Danish. Immediately, he took it to Glendora. He was a national tech director at that time. And I really felt it was important that we had a shot in the arm for the the Superstock classes. I even actually had it for the stock, but NHRA went to Superstock, and they grabbed it, and Danish got it through. And then the rest is history. Pontiac gave me a car. Actually, Pontiac gave me two cars, and Oldsmobile gave me an Oldsmobile to build into Superstock GT class. So that's my only claim to fame is the GT classes. It's been a lot of fun. Every time I see a car in GT, I kind of get a little bit proud because it's enabled us to run in the old combinations in the new body styles. And then F.J. Smith, he, a chassis builder, he took the front wheel drive and turned it over to rear wheel drive. So FJ, who's a good chassis builder, he was one of the first people to build a front wheel drive to rear wheel drive like my Superstocker. So.
No, I know that you are definitely taking advantage of that, and a lot of people are taking advantage of that, and that's taking the whole Cobalt Cavalier Pontiac Sunfire, maybe even a couple Ford Escorts out there, and made them absolute killer race cars, to the dismay of a lot of the rear-wheel drive racers and GT racers. I mean, those drivers that run 80s and 90s Camaros and they claim GT cars, they were rear-wheel drive when they started. They still are. Their complaint is that the front-wheel drive cars are just built, so much better. They're allowed a lot more, suspension modifications than their cars are. What do you think of that? You think that's okay, or?
Well, I like the old cars. The super stock cars. I think there's a place for both of us. If you want to go to, the money thing, you go to a GT car, a front wheel drive conversion, or even a lot of cars can run GT and the old super stock if you have an older car. I'm old school. I like the older cars, the Hemis and the big block Chevys, and I like them a lot. I don't think there's a issue in the rules as far as an advantage with the GT cars anymore. Each car now by NHRA is rated by the model, whether rear wheel drive, front wheel drive conversion, stuff like that. So long time ago when it first came out, there might have been an advantage, but I think now the rules and everything, it's a certain level playing field now. Because I like to see the Hemi cars. I know a lot of people in Hemi cars and everything, and I like to see them. Eric Bell, he has a Hemi car, and Carl Weinsinger and a couple other people, and Camilio does it. I always mispronounce his name, Chuck. And so I like the old cars. I think there's a place for everybody. The index is perfect for everybody. Everybody complains about certain combinations in the GT versus the old rules, and I think it's about as good as you can possibly do. NHRA keeps tweaking it a little bit. I think they've done a good job.
All right, let's get back to your car then, Don. Your Sunfire.
Yeah.
You told us who built the motor. How about who built the car then? Who converted it?
A guy named Andrew Melou built the car originally, and then I took it out to my good friend out in California, Phil Mandela at PMR Race Cars, and he tweaked it a little bit. Frank Gossi was a good friend of mine. He had a Sunfire, and he was pretty fast. And Phil, who we all know is a really excellent chassis guy, and he took the car and set it up like Frank Grossi's. A little bit different. Frank was a little bit heavier than I am, and so that's who did it. Andrew Millet passed away here about a month ago. Andrew Melou, and his daughter helped weld the car and build the car up, and he was a good guy, but he passed away, and so the car really works good. The paint job's not really good. I don't care about the paint job, but the car works really, really, really well with the Pontiac motor, and it's a good car to have. It's good. It works well. It's up to the driver to do a good job. And occasionally I do a good job. I don't have enough seat time, but out here, since I moved here to Tennessee, we're getting a lot more seat time, and that helps a lot. Out west, there's just not any races. And so we love it here. The people, racers all over the United States are friendly, and seat time is what we need to be a better driver. And I'm starting to get that a little bit, but some people say too many birthdays, but my reaction time is okay. I'm not like Brian, natural driver, or you, Bobby. I have to have seat time, and everything has to be perfect, I guess, for me to do any good. I'm not like Paul and Mike Cotton and everybody, or Brian.
As a Pontiac guy, have you ever run like sorry, tongue tied here. Does anybody run like the 455 or the 400 combinations? Have you messed with anything else?
Yeah, I ran 455 Super Duty for 26 years in my red Trans Am. That car's over in Sweden. Brad Burton runs the 400 and the 428. There's a lot of stalkers. Carol Worling, Norm Worling out in Colorado. Bob Michael runs the Pontiac. There's a guy named Todd France Irvin John's car. He's probably the fastest car with the Pontiac motor in GTE automatic right now. Bob Cruzen runs a 428 out in Oklahoma. He's a fast car. I'm probably maybe third in the class. Jeff Lawrence runs a Ford. He's pretty fast. And I always try to rotate the earth. I'm old school whenever I leave the starting line. And somebody told me the other day, you need to start concentrating on driving instead of trying to rotate the earth every time. But the fastest Pontiac right now, I think, is Todd France. The car is owned by Irvin Johns, and they're good people. And I think he went really fast at Bowling Green, really fast. And so he can be the fastest.
Well, if memory recalls right, though, like that 69 Pontiac 400 was supposed to be like one of the best, most horsepower motors from the factory.
Yeah, it's a good combination. Brad Burton and a couple other people ran that. Pontiac is kind of the stepchild in the whole scheme of things. And, there's one of the issues whenever a Pontiac runs fast, there's 2 million Chevrolet racers complaining. But when a Chevrolet racer runs fast, there's only 10 of us Pontiac people. Just figuratively, I don't know how many actually there are, but we're kind of uphill, but that's okay. I like the torque, and I like, we don't buzz them too high RPM wise, but the Pontiac Motor Division was involved with a lot of racing, unbeknown to some people. Rich Sherman out who was worked for Pontiac Motor Division. He was involved in Mr. Goodwrench, sponsorship of Warren Johnson. He's a good friend of mine. He was involved in putting a hood available for road racing on a Sunfire that never materialized. They made some hoods, which a little bubble on the top, which did not much to performance, but it never materialized. And then Pontiac went out of business. And of course, I like the hood, but NHRA made me take it off because they couldn't find the fact that what I knew, that it was available for Pontiac Sunfires, which is kind of crazy. Some of the newer cars have hoods that don't come from the factory, but whenever I had my Sunfire, they said, take that hood off, and it had nothing to do with power. It just looks better. So Pontiacs are few and far between, but it's fun to do because I like the torque and the low RPM, and I'm not like everybody else with a Chevrolet motor.
What kind of
hey, Bobby, you have the Ford. Huh?
What kind of transmission do you put behind the 428?
Well, I have a Carl Rossler transmission with an ATI converter. Jim Beatty, when he was alive, long time ago, I was testing out in Orange County, and I broke a transmission. And I called up somebody named Jim Beatty at ATI, and I said, hey, I'm out here in California. I broke a tranny. That was on a Friday morning, and he had a transmission shipped out to me Saturday. So I'm an ATI fan converter. And then I got to know Carl Rossler, and Carl built me a transmission, and that's what I run now. I think I'm his oldest customer for Rossler, and I'd kind of like a Pro Trans, but it's not in the budget right now. But car runs good. We did some testing at St. Louis when you were there, Bobby, and we changed the suspension around. And then I went to Bowling Green here 3 weeks ago, and it had 3 or 4 117 60 foots, which is pretty good for me.
Have you messed with gear ratios in that transmission much, or just kind of run it the way it was? With that higher torque, I'm just wondering if you know what your gear ratio splits are.
Well, I run a standard 248. I think that some people have been testing. I changed tire size, diameter to change the gear ratio on the lead, and then I play with the timing on the lead. And of course, Phil Mandela out in California at PMR Race Cars, he came to St. Louis and got me straightened out about. I was hitting the wheelie bars and unloading the car, and he came over and said, Don, get out of the way. I'm going to do something. I go, Bobby, you were there. I said, okay, okay, we'll do it. And then boom, the car left like a rocket ship. And Phil, who's one of the nicest guys, I have a lot of chassis builder customers. They're all really good people. And of course, I've known Phil for 50 years, and he just got the car hooking up. And Phil Mandela helps everybody, Bobby and Ryan. He comes to racetrack, and I've never seen anybody work so hard in my whole life than Phil. And, you know, if you come over and ask him, he'll fix it, you know. And of course, Tony and the whole family is a really good company out in California at PMA Race Cars.
Actually, remember when he told us what he was going to do? We were both kind of like, you and I were like, are you sure that's going to work?
Yeah, Bobby and
that's probably when he said, just get out of the way.
Yeah. Phil knows I'm kind of stubborn, and he goes, you know, just let me do it. You know, yeah. Bobby and I were sitting there, and I go, okay. So actually, when I went to Bowling Green, when I broke a header tube, that I actually moved it back to where I had it before. Sure enough, it did the same thing, hitting the wheel bars and unloading the tires. Of course, the air was killer, and you know, it was cool and everything. And the tracks were like awesome. Bowling Green track is awesome. They know, you know, I've only spun once there, and of course, St. Louis last year was pretty good. My lights were good last year, and then this year my lights. You think I never ran down the track before, but Phil got the car set straight, and I'm anxious now. I'm kind of getting my enthusiasm back to go racing.
Yeah, Phil
What
Mandela's...
is your favorite track to race, Don?
Huh?
What is your favorite track? I mean, you're from New Mexico originally, correct? And that's where you started back in 1963, and then you moved to Arizona. But now in Tennessee, I mean, did you have to leave a favorite racetrack now to come to the East Coast? You know, a track that you're probably not going to race at anymore?
My favorite racetrack is where I have the best pit spot. You know, I like them all. You know, Bowling Green is, you know, Brock and Dallas do a great job up there. I like all the racetracks as long as I have a good pit spot and the starting line is good. And you know, pitted with all our super stock friends and all the racers. You know, I won a lot in Salt Lake in Utah. Won in Vegas. That's a good track. Jeff Foster does a great job in Vegas, and you know, that's a good track. There's no bad pit spots. Anytime you get there, you're on pavement. And of course, when you come out here, I call a good pit spot that has a paved road to get up to the staging lanes, and as long as you're on grass. And of course the humidity is a little bit tough, but you know, any track I'm at, I'm happy. Did we talk about the G2 rules, Bobby?
Yeah. A little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's my only claim to fame, GT rules. You know, it's just, I think it was a shot in the arm for that. NHRA is, you know, sportsmen have to be at NHRA tracks. A lot of people think that the sportsmen aren't important. The NHRA tracks, if they didn't have the sportsmen, they would only have, 60, maybe 70 pros. That includes pro stock and top fuel and funny car. And it looked like a deserted track if they didn't have the sportsmen. And I hope they're kind of understanding more and more how important sportsman racing is.
Yeah, well, there used to be rumors all the time that they were going to separate pros from sportsmen and national events and things like that. It never came to fruition, and I don't think it should. I mean, that heads-up final between Johnny Gray and John Shaw at Epping last week, AA stock automatic heads-up final. I mean, that really worked in their favor. The fact that it was two, you know, 60s muscle cars, AA, you knew a wheelie was going to happen. They put that on their Facebook page, and I was proud when it hit 50,000 views after 5 hours. Then I was even more happy when it hit 300,000 views, and John Force's final round was only at like 212,000. I was like, all right, stock beat John Force. Right, last I checked yesterday, that video of that final round on NHRA's Facebook page had 812,000 views. And then I went back to look at John Ford. I think his was at maybe 400,000. I mean, they more than doubled the Facebook views by posting a stock eliminator final. So I'm hoping that they are paying attention to that and realizing, hey, maybe we have an avenue here. We got a marketing tool. We have something that appeals to the regular race fan. Actual cars going down track. A car show with the cars racing. So, like you said, Don, the sportsmen, we generate revenue for them, obviously. We pay to be there. They could be using us probably way more than they are.
Yeah, the sportsman, I think Billy Meyer got rid of the sportsman when he first started the Dallas track, and it didn't work. I think he was involved with IHRA a long time ago. There's a pretty neat match with sportsmen and pros at a racetrack, and I think NHRA realizes the way Alan Reinhart and some of the announcers build up the sportsmen. I think that's good. And you talk about advertised impressions. Johnny Gray and Shaw, they're both my clients, and I was rooting for both of them. That's a lot of advertised impressions that you got to look at. Like for you guys, I'm hoping that somebody will come on board and help sponsor the podcast and the flash news that you came up with, Bobby. That's great. And you and Brian are key to our whole scheme of sportsman racing. And people don't realize how we need people to come together. NHRA is probably going to realize it more and more, particularly with that. I call it advertised impressions. That's how many times the car goes down the track and how many people see it. With you guys being high profile, you and Brian, you guys are a great combination. I'm looking for somebody that would step up and say, hey, this is part of our progression in sportsman racing. Bobby, you and Brian come in with a podcast and flash news. Somebody needs to step up and pay you guys for what you're doing. So, continuation of sportsman racing. We can't let sportsman racing die on the vine because we're not doing things to keep up with times. And you guys are doing a good advertising impressions. Bobby, with your interviews, they're fantastic. Everybody likes to know something about a racer. And we all know about the professionals, and that's old for some people, but the new people might like to listen to the same thing over and over again. And I'm not belittling the professionals, but there's a whole bigger market that hasn't been tapped in the sportsman racing, and you guys are part of that progression of the sportsman racing by having the flash news and the podcast. I love your podcast. Mike and Paula Cotton and Stan Holt and Sheila and all them. I like that interview. I liked all your interviews. It's just fun to watch. And then you can go back and watch them later, which is even better.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, I appreciate that. I really love doing the interviews. I love learning things about people and their cars. I mean, it's been fun. This podcast has been fun. I owe it all to Brian. He's the one that called me up and said, hey, let's do a podcast. And I was at first saying like, nah, I don't know about that. That's a lot of work and I don't really have time for it. But I'm super glad that we did it. It's definitely changed my life. It added a whole new purpose for me. So
Hey, Brian, when you won that $5,000 at St. Louis, how much of that did you get to keep, or do you buy another horse for your wife?
No, I had to replace the trailer I sold on the way to St. Louis. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was very interesting because I didn't know. I know who you guys were, but I appreciate you adopting me to have all the food. And I think in St. Louis, I don't think I bought a meal and everything with Mandela's and you guys and everybody. It's fun. The only thing that killed me is the heat and the cold, and so that kind of put a little damper on things. But
when was
I'm getting used to the humidity.
When was it cold?
It wasn't cold for Brian.
Oh shoot!
I bought one sweatshirt and I wore the hell out of that thing.
Brian's tougher than I am. I'm from Arizona, where my blood's thin, and it gets over 70, 70 years old. 70 years, I realized how used to the weather, and then when I get over 70 degrees, I become okay. Under 70, I have to have a jacket on.
I will say this weekend, like it was. I would normally say like unbearably hot, 80s, sitting in the fire suit in the car, but I spent the week before that horsing with my wife in Texas, so 97 degrees and humid. I think it kind of conditioned me, and it helped me to stay a little calmer in the car with the heat. Because normally I'm like, St. Louis, I'm like, why would you not just race in that temperature all the time? Like, I'll bring the car out in the spring and the fall and just leave it parked all summer when it's hot. Because that's always the worst part for me, is just sitting in there and cooking. Like, whoever the engineer at GM that thought, hey, let's put a glass roof on a Camaro, I just want to slap, because man, it gets hot in that thing.
Yeah, but Brian, you're Mr. Cool anyway, so you don't have, you have your act together. Your demeanor is awesome. I was watching you. You didn't know that, but you did a great job every time you get out there. So, Bobby, and I know you. I looked for one of your runs the other day. You have to send me a run with your stick car. Kip Martin and I were good friends when he was alive, and he could drive that car and hit the limiter and pull it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I learned a lot from him. I hung out with him in Arizona. We talked to him, many, many times, asking him questions. And the guy was a genius. I mean, he was a smart guy. He knew how to build a killer engine. He could drive. He was just, yeah, man. We learned a lot from him. We wouldn't be going as fast as we are now if it wasn't for him. So
correct.
When's your next race, Don?
I'm going to go to the race in Columbus in July. I'm so busy with the race car insurance that I was going to go to Bowling Green over the weekend, and I got busy with selling race car insurance for everybody. And after that, I started selling race car. I think the Warners are one of my clients from a long time ago. And then when I moved here to Tennessee, after an issue happened with Jeff Lane, I said, I need to get involved in selling race car insurance. It's very cheap for $20,000 guaranteed value. It's about $180 a year. After what happened to Bill Marshall the other day, you think it's not going to happen to you. And when it does, I'm here. I'm the broker. I can take care of you. I know exactly what a racer goes through. I know how important it is to have our stuff insured. Contents in a trailer, insure the race car, go out and win the race. In fact, I told Johnny Gray, I didn't know he was going to run Shaw, who's one of my clients. I told him, I said, now that we got you insured, you're going to win a race. And how did he go to heck? He did that. And I'm just on a mission. I've got my wife. She's helping me immensely. She's smarter than I am. She does all the follow-up stuff. I need to insure everybody in the United States with a race car. It's a no-brainer. Contents are cheap. The trailer is average. The race car is very, very, very cheap. And so everybody needs to do that. I'd like to get Hagerty to be involved with you guys. They're a big corporation. They've got 1,200 employees. They're the top dog in insurance, and they've been in business for like 30 some years, and their book of business is fantastic. And it seems like I'm just very, very blessed to have a good, decent book of business with all the racers. I handle the process of enrolling and everything. I have to just call me, get their stuff insured. The race car is covered everywhere except going down the track. That's another issue that Hagerty is addressing. And so I just feel it's a no-brainer, and everybody needs to get their car insured. You think it's not going to happen to you, like Bill Marshall's car caught on fire, and it does. And if you do it, you're sitting there with all your money in your car and no way to go racing. With Hagerty there to support. And I'm your advocate, you're my clients. And so that's one of the things that we are really having a good time. My wife and I are trying to get everybody's car insured, because there's no reason why you cannot afford to put your car and get it insured. I have to just call me and go on Facebook and whatever, and we work every day but Sunday. And Hagerty is absolutely, like I mentioned, Hagerty is absolutely the best company to work with. I've been involved in insurance my whole life, and their claims are in prompt when they have a claim. The people I work with at Hagerty, I got 2 or 3 executives at Hagerty that handle all my book, and I have a huge book of business. And so people need to get it insured. There's no reason not to do it, Bobby. I mean, for $20,000, it's $180 a year.
Wow.
And that's a guaranteed value and no deductible. So
how do they get a hold of you, Don? Do you want them to give you a call? Or is there a website they should go on? Or
yeah, they can go on Facebook, or they can call me. It's mainly on Facebook. I have an Arizona number since I haven't ever changed my cell phone. But if you see me at the track, it's really funny. We got so many clients now. I recognize the race car, but I don't know the people. I recognize the people. So I had one client, I tried to sell him race car insurance 3 times because I didn't see him around his car because I recognized his car, but I didn't recognize him. I go, no. But my number, if somebody wants to know, it's 602-284-6240. I'll repeat that, 602-284-6240. You can call me anytime, day or night. I can talk about drag racing forever, as you guys know. And, I'd sure like to get a sponsor for you guys because I sure enjoy your program.
Oh, I appreciate that, Don. I had no idea that was $180 a year for what, 20,000 or 40,000 worth of coverage. I mean, that is really cheap. So we're gonna have to talk after this episode.
Yeah. 20,000, it's about 1% less, $20, and you can get contents of your trailer. You can get all kinds of different things that help you when you're racing and protect your stuff. It's kind of new in the last 3.5 years. I've done it for a long time. Like I mentioned, I had the Warners for a long time, and then when I moved here to Tennessee, it just came into something that's a necessity for everybody. So that's what we're doing.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Call Don Kennedy. He gave you his phone number, or visit him on Facebook if you need some race car and trailer insurance. Don, let's get back to your racing and driving. Now, you say you started in 1963. What car did you start with?
I bought a 55 Chevrolet that had a Continental kit with an automatic transmission and air conditioning. So with my unwise decision, I took the Continental kit off. I took the air conditioning out. I took the automatic transmission out and put a 3-speed in it. And I raced when they first had a flagman that kind of dazed me, which I enjoyed. And then I went to in Farmington, New Mexico. I raced at Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when I got the hook in there, I think I won the New Mexico state champions three years in a row, state champion. And then I bought when I bought my dealership, I bought a Bob Michaels Pontiac, and then I started running a Pontiac. And just kind of in New Mexico, wasn't really the hotbed of racing like it is here in Tennessee, but I had that 55 Chevrolet. Nobody showed me how to do it. I just took it apart and learned by trial and error, and heck, I used to be able to do things when I'm your guys' age really easy. I've slowed down a little bit for some reason, maybe too many birthdays, but then I had the Super Duty car. No, I had a Nova with a 4-speed in it, Bobby. And I couldn't drive that car worth a flip. I kept killing transmissions, but I won a lot of money with it. And then I bought Mike McGrath's 69 Camaro convertible that ran in super stock. And that was really a fun car. It was really trick. It had aluminum bolts in it. Everything was dipped. It was a convertible. I liked that car. And then I sold that and bought Bob Michaels Pontiac. And then after the GT rules, Pontiac sent me the car. I had Danny Davis build the car out in California. And we had the headers that went out to the front because Danish wouldn't let us cut where we wanted for the headers with the GT car. And so we made headers that went out front. And then Tom Nolan had this Sunfire, and I sold my red Trans Am. It went to Sweden, and then Tom Nolan sold me this car that I have now, 2005 Sunfire. We ran the 428, we ran the 455 Super Duty in it for a while, and then we wanted to do the combination. A friend of mine, Lynn McCarty, in Indiana, got this combination going, and that's where we're at right now. And it's a fun car. It repeats. The 60-foot is fantastic. It doesn't. The only time it spins is when I make a mistake, or maybe the track's not quite prepped right. But yeah, I've been doing it a long time. I looked out in the garage. I think I've set 4 or 5 records. I actually set a record under American Hot Rod Association in Tucson, Arizona, a long time ago. They wouldn't let me set the record because I had a quadrijet carburetor on it, and it was a 4-barrel class. So I said, well, I can go buy a Holly, and that was in Tucson, and they said, no, we'll let you set the record. So I actually set an American Hot Rod Association record in Tucson. And then I set a record in Vegas. No, I set a record. Kind of forgot where they are. They're on my wall, but I've been torn down a lot, 6 or 7 times, which as you get older, it's harder to do, but seemed like the car works really well. So here I am, 74 years old, still drag racing.
You need to come up here to the Midwest with that thing.
Oh yeah, I was like, after seeing the success, I thought, "Dadgummit, how come?" I know Larry and Patsy Hill were they there? Yeah, they were there.
Yep.
And I thought, shoot, I like to, where they go to a lot of places, and I'd like to go there. I wish that after seeing how successful it was, I thought, man, I should have gone there. How are the pits there, by the way, Brian?
They're nice. I actually just redid the whole track, or the whole
Really?
pit area. They moved it to the other side of the track, and they all the roads are paved. You're on grass, which they just planted grass, so it's growing. So that's probably not quite where it'll be yet. But I mean, everything's on asphalt, and I would say I kind of judge it by how dirty your trailer is afterwards. And I would say there wasn't much difference between going to Brainerd or going there. I mean, everything stayed pretty clean. So
Yeah. Was that Al Cordes? Oh, he owned that track, didn't he?
yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Al's a good friend of mine. Well, I should have gone there. I suspect next year he'd be buried even more. How many cars were there? It seemed like there was forever cars, huh?
Yeah, I think there was right around 117 stockers, stock, super stock.
Wow.
And then I think there was probably 40 or 50 in the nostalgic super stock class they ran. And then I think there was 40 or 50 in the muscle car index race. So
And 36 in the stick car challenge too.
yeah, it was a good turnout. Next race I'm going to is July 17th or 18th. Line Performance is doing the Paul Bunyan Classic in Brainerd. And Brainerd's probably one of my favorite tracks to go to. I mean, that's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I raced in Brainerd when my wife lived in in Minnesota, and I raced in Brainerd and stayed at some place, went there and had to stay in a resort, and I like Brainerd and everything. I ran at Marion, South Dakota on that race, and then I broke a 4-speed and stayed up all night, Bobby, building a 4-speed. My brother-in-law and I rebuilt that 4-speed. We didn't have clutchless then. We kept killing the what is it called? Anyway, we kept killing it, so I had to grind it off, put it back together, froze, went to sleep in the staging lanes, run a couple rounds with that stick car though, but I'm not a stick person, Bobby. I have to admire you guys that run 4-speeds and everything, and I'm not one of those guys.
Well, you had your fun back when it was, took a ton of maintenance. Now it's not quite as bad. But I mean, in all your years, Don, you've raced a lot. You've driven, multiple different cars. Do you have a round, or do you have like a memorable, fun win that you can tell us about quick?
Every time I win, I'm happy. I think the most fun I had in 2012 when we were racing at Vegas. My buddy Steve Hesser, who was racing with me, the first 15 years I burned out my wife of racing, and I burned out my 2 daughters, and then Steve went racing, and it's when we won that race in the finals. We ran against Jimmy DeFrank, who's a really good driver, as everybody knows. But that race, we were basically, like you said, Brian, we were in the zone. And I posted on Facebook, every round it was just bam, bam, bam. The wind was blowing really bad. And every round, I think we nailed it every time. And there I was in the finals against Jimmy DeFrank, and I think I won by 7 or 8 thousandths or something like that. That was the last run. But my most memorial run, memory run is 3 weeks ago. I mean, my best run is the last run I made. The car went fast, and it hooked hard, and some, like a friend of mine, Jim Hughes out in Colorado, he remembers every single run he made his whole life, and most of the time he'll remember. He has a stick car, Bobby, Jim. Most of the time he remembers my runs, and I went to him one time. I said, "Hey Jim, do you remember when we were in Pomona or somewhere?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "What did I run?" But no, my funnest run, I would say, is my last run that I make, and I'm not quite ready for the last tour, but it's getting close.
Well, we hope you can stay out there as long as possible, many more years. We have to try and convince Brian to actually run an NHRA national event. Brainerd. Brian, you going to try and run Brainerd this year? Or you should hit that Jegs Sports Nationals that Don's going to. Got to get you out there. What do you think?
I have a plan, so that's about all I'll say.
All right, he's got a plan. We'll
Yeah.
see what that
Hey,
means.
Brian, as good as driver as you are, you should be going to all the races. Holy cow. Before you get old.
I would not say I'm a good driver. Sometimes I'm just lucky.
Oh.
I know Brian gets mad when he cuts a 20 light. He's like, "Oh, that was terrible."
I know.
I'm like, "Oh my goodness."
It's
Stop.
like Paula and Mike Cotton, who are good friends of mine. A lot of people, I don't know if they realize it, but Paula is really a good driver. She won a lot of races, and then she had an incident in Phoenix that scared the crap out of everybody. But Paula is really, really a good driver. So is Mike, but a lot of people don't remember when Paula was driving. She won a lot of races, and so they're good friends of mine. You know, our theme with our insurance company is race more, win more, and I realized, like most people do, to win more, you have to race more, get seat time. Everybody out west gets probably 50% less seat time than they do here because there's more drag strips, 8 mile and all kind of things. But there's no doubt there's some tough drivers everywhere. And I never take anybody for granted when I run. I kind of like to run the heavy hitters because I feel more comfortable running the heavy hitters because I like to do that. Just kind of something that I like to do. But yeah, Brian, you need to get out there. Good driver as you are. Lucky driver as you are. You need to get out there more. All it takes is money.
He's got plenty of that, so he'll be out there.
That's the limiting factor for most of us, but
yeah, he has horses. His wife has horses, and they eat every day, huh, Brian?
He's got to sell a horse and go race more.
Oh no,
we do have one request. Somebody
Okay.
said, "How about Hagerty selling race motor insurance?" What do you think of that? Why don't you go talk to him for us?
Well, one of the situations, if you break a motor, it's not covered.
No, well, that's
but
the
if-
whole point. So I would buzz my motor a couple hundred RPM higher if I knew Hagerty was going to cover it for me.
Well, if somebody runs into you and does some damage, not on the track, there might be a gray area that it might be covered. Contents is important. I deal with all kinds of questions, and what makes me happy is I'm your advocate. We had an issue where a motor was stolen that was covered.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing, but Hagerty actually covered it. Hagerty is a great company to be dealing with. I mean, they're the strongest company in the world as far as in the United States and the world as far as an insurance company. It's no hassles. I mean, I dealt with a claim yesterday, and most of the claims have been paid in 2 weeks. And McKeel Hagerty and who owns it, his sister, they look for reasons to pay claims. I make sure my clients understand the claim process. I'm your advocate. You guys my clients go out and race, and I'll take care of any issues that you may have as far as claims. But Hagerty is the big gorilla. There's no reason for anybody not to insure their car with Hagerty. They've been in business for years and years. And I like my clients. And like I told a client yesterday, they insured their car for $10,000. I said, next time I see you, we'll go out to lunch. They said, well, the commission was $31. I said, we'll go out to lunch. I make 10% or whatever the premium is, but I'm doing it because I feel in my heart, my wife, that we need it. It's a need, kind of like what you guys are doing, Bobby, you and Brian. Is part of the progression of racing, and we've got to be involved. Else, we don't want the sportsmen to dwindle away. And there's a lot of young people coming in, which is good. Daughters and sons and people. I'd kind of like NHRA to bring back the racers in super stock and stock. I'd like to see that. Of course, they did that at one time, but I kind of have a feeling about that. They ought to, of course, they don't maybe not need more cars, but I wouldn't mind running a racer. Number one, they don't leave very hard on the starting line. But, there's a place for all of us in sportsman racing, and there's no doubt it's a big industry for NHRA and all the rest of us.
Well, maybe they'll bring that back at some point. Yeah, I remember there was an import class back in the early 2000s, I believe. But I don't know what happened with that. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? But Don, we thank you for joining us this weekend, and everybody out there, thank you for listening. And don't forget, we have T-shirts, we got stickers. This is Class Racing Today podcast, classracingtoday.com. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a rating. We'll take it. All right. Classracingtoday@gmail.com if you want a shirt or a sticker, or if you just want to comment, have any concerns. And that's it. Everybody, be safe out there, safe travels, and good luck at your next race. Craig?
Thanks, everybody.
You bet. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks, Don. Brian and Bobby, thanks for getting out there and doing your thing. This episode brought to you by Midwest Class Racers. July 17, 18, the Midwest Class Racer 8th Annual Paul Bunyan Classics coming up at Brainerd International Raceway. Don't miss it. This is Class Racing Today, classracingtoday.com. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you on the track. Have a great day.